All right, so first let me show you the agenda of what we're going to be doing in the next couple hours. We're going to start with a kind of a warm-up activity, which is to get you thinking about this service learning discussion we're going to end the class with today. But I'll do kind of a warm-up based on similar things to what I did last week, getting you to think about the Hunter model, about ITIP, and about using an anticipatory set. So that's kind of my hook for today. So again, kind of modeling the anticipatory set for you. Then we'll go back to continue some of the discussion we had last week, maybe cover some of the topics that we didn't get a chance to really cover in great detail. Tenure will be one of them. So legal responsibilities part 2 from your chapter of your reading. We'll make sure that there's some time for you to ask some questions about any procedures you're not completely clear about for this class in terms of turning in your showcase documents, etc. We'll end with well, I should say, not quite end, but the last activity that we'll put in is the service learning roundtable, where we'll really do an open discussion about your service learning experience, just to kind of debrief a little bit about what you got out of it. You've done that individually on paper, but we want to do that as a group also. Then we'll have our guest appearance from David Wicks, so he can answer every question you've ever had about your portfolio in those last 10 minutes, and so we'll see how that goes. And I'll put a plug here at the bottom of the agenda for to remind you to consider doing course evaluations on this course. Okay, so for service learning, what I'd like you to do is to, again, I always think of the anticipatory set as based on prior knowledge. So how do you get your students engaged, right? So they come in from lunch and recess and they're not thinking about the math lesson you're about to do or the reading lesson you're about to do. And you want to kind of get them to focus. I'm in class now, we're about to cover this, how do you do that? And so what I say is individualizing prior knowledge. So you want to get them to think about what they already know about this topic, and you want to get them to think about their own knowledge of it. Not just kind of general knowledge, whatever you could find on the internet, right? But individualized knowledge, how does this apply to you? So I think if you do that well, if you can figure out a question to ask them that does that well, then you have a good anticipatory set. So that's always my recommendation, is you're thinking about a hook, prior knowledge, and individualize it. Get them to think about their own experience. So I was going to do that with you based on your service learning. And so let's start with a pretty simple one, and I always encourage that for anticipatory set too, is don't give them too much of a challenge, because then the students are like in a million places at once and it won't be that useful. But so very simple question, at least to start, which is, had you had community service experience before this? So before you came to this course, discuss with an elbow partner right now what your previous experience was with community service. It might be something completely different. You worked in a soup kitchen, or you picked up trash by the highway, or whatever. But so that's what you'll be discussing just for the next minute or so, okay? Your previous community service experience.